Hi, I'm Stephen Ham from Archery Supplies. One of my customers wrote to me and said, will you review my limbs? And I was like, this is a bit of a weird request. He said, I'll send them through to you, and if you like them, you can keep them. I was like, that's weird. So anyway, he sent them through to me. Now, this is what they are. And when I sort of saw them, so I know the limbs. I've never shot them before. I know the brand, Nika. So when I saw these limbs, this is my first time seeing these limbs in real life, I was like, am I going to get in trouble from Uukah? Nika Limbs. Uukah in, I'm going to say France, make recurve limbs. They're a hyper recurve limbs. That means they've got lots of recurve on the limb. They're about 20 feet per second faster. They come in 50% carbons, I'm going to say 75% carbon, 100% carbon, and another plus carbon. And they're about 20 feet per second faster. And as you go up in carbon quality, the limbs become a little bit faster. So the 100% is faster than the 50%, but the 50% is still about 20% faster than your standard recurve limb. Okay, so now Uukah limbs have a lifetime warranty on them, I'm pretty sure. This means if you have a problem, you have to return them to the factory. Okay, because like returning them means I've got to return them to the factory, and I'm not going to do a lifetime warranty on a set of limbs. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Now, if I have had problem with Uukah limbs, they get returned to the factory and they either fix them or they send you another set of limbs out. Okay, so saying that, I haven't had a set of limbs from Uukah that I've had a problem getting them warranted, but you might be looking at a turnaround time of around 8 weeks. Okay, and you're up for the cost of shipping them back and getting them back here. So it charges you both ways if you have a warranty with Uukah. But it is lifetime, and that's pretty amazing. And they're a very good quality limb. They are very fast, very smooth to draw back. However, in the draw process, they build up quicker here at the start and continue through the process, more so than a traditional recurve limb behind me. So when you're choosing a recurve limb of any brand, and this is a Nika, I'm going to sort of show the graphics, you have to bear warranty in mind. So if you're buying a recurve limb second hand, there's no warranty. So if those limbs break, it's just done. You can't go back to the person you bought those limbs from and say, my limbs broke. So I sold a set of recurve limbs the other day to a person, second hand, 6 months later, the limbs broke. So they broke on the outside here. And he goes, oh, I'd like to claim a warranty. And I was like, that was second hand. I can't go back to the person I brought them from and say, hey, those limbs you've got, they think I want my money back. You can't do that with second hand products. But if it's half price, hopefully it's okay. So you've always got to bear that in mind when you're purchasing a product. Now, if you're purchasing this product, as opposed to Uukah limbs or any other limb, you have to bear that in mind about, if this product breaks, will I get customer service? Will they talk to me? Will I get some sort of help if I have a problem? All right, so I'm going to say that is really, really important as far as I'm concerned, because recurve limb failures, I'm going to say Fivics behind me, and I feel like a Fivics spokesman. I have never had a Fivics limb fail, ever. I've never had a Fivics limb twist. I've never had a failure, and they test them. They currently have got a video of them being dry fired 20 times and the limb's still fine. This is my bow behind me. It's 52 pounds. It's always strung. It's out here. I live next to the ocean. I shoot it every day. Those limbs are about a year old. They're perfect. They're great limbs. You have to bear this in mind when you're buying a limb. Okay, so when I look at these limbs, I think, are they a good limb? What are they like? where do they sit in the marketplace, and what price point are they? So to the best of my knowledge, if you're going to buy these limbs, you're probably buying them directly from like Alibaba or somewhere like that. So I have asked this company about being supplied. So here's the specs on these limbs. These are a 70-inch, 36-pound limb. Now, 70-inch limbs are going to have a bigger brace height. I shoot 68 inches. So a bigger brace height and going to be a little bit smoother than a 68, but a little bit slower. Okay. First off, the carbon looks identical to a Uukah limb. The limb tips are very small. So very small, like a Uukah. This makes stringing the bow really hard because you can't get a limb tip. You can't use a limb tip to limb tip bowstringer. You have to use a bowstringer that goes on the limb and to the limb tip on the other end because these limb tips are so small. Now I'm going to say the advantage of a small limb tip is meant to be more speed. The edges are rounded. Okay, so in my videos I've spoken before about this. Like Hoyt limbs are often square, so they're square. If the edge of the limb gets touched, a splinter comes up. These limbs are rounded on the edges. It creates more surface area, less likely to have splits on the edges. Okay. Now, one of my friends is a Hoyt dealer. When the limbs are touched on the edge, he does not refer to that as a warranty. So if you get a split on a Hoyt limb on the edge, he does not refer to that as a warranty. So therefore, you've got to buy a new set of limbs, and they're $1,000. Whether that's the case with your Hoyt dealer, I don't know. I just know people have had this problem, and I know what's been the result. And I'm not picking on Hoyt. I'm just saying these limbs are rounded around the edges, and that's a good thing because less likely to have splinters. Okay. The limb tip is narrower here. This means more speed. The shape of the limb looks like a Uukah. The pivots here are interesting because they're curved. Most limbs, this is flat, so you're getting a spot where the pivot touches and you get markings on the end here. Now he's obviously shot these limbs a little bit, but there's no markings here. I'm guessing that's because it's round. I really like that feature. Now the limb, where this goes into the limb bolt, so they clip in. This is not as wide as what I'd normally, when I say wide, not as deep as what I normally see on a normal limb. And what's interesting is it's curved back this way, so it will sort of sit evenly. So I think this will clip in quite well. The little spring system looks quite good. Look, he's clearly used these limbs. I'm guessing he's gone up in poundage and he's like, well, do a review on these limbs. Which I find weird because if you shot these limbs, you're either happy or you're not happy with them. I'm guessing he was happy with them. Okay? It doesn't mean you're going to be happy with them. If these limbs fail, you are going to be angry because I know the way customers are, and it's quite a stressful thing for me because I'm like, well, these limbs are quite cheap and you're angry. Is it worth being angry? Anyway, the graphics are beautiful. So the graphics are beautiful. The socks, which the limbs come in, have got the little wool inside, which from memory is like another limb made out of China, which had the wool inside, which looks like a same as a Hoyt limb. So I'm guessing the Hoyt limb socks come from China. Whether they do or don't is another question. I'm guessing they do. This one, no little marks there. You can see like a lot of my limbs get little marks here where it juts, where the limb bolt juts into the limb here. These look really nice. So because it's 70 inches, I've got to get a 70-inch string, which I've got. We're going to put these on the bow and have a sort of shot, see how they feel. Look, I thought about doing a speed test, but I didn't think it would make much sense because I'd then need another set of 70-inch, 36-pound limbs. So I thought we'll just shoot them. But if they've got a big recurve, they're going to be faster than just a normal recurve. So we're going to fit them to the bow now and have a feel what they shoot like. Okay, so just to compare, these are my Fivics limbs. You can see I've got little dents in here. So these limbs are a year old. Little dents in here, and this is where it touches. There's little marks on the edges there. this is straight in a Fivics. So straight there, where the Nika is angled down. So that's kind of interesting. But these limbs are squarer. I've had no splinters lift, where the Nika's more rounded. But like these limbs I carry in the car with the bow fully assembled. Very, very good limbs. Okay, so some limbs are hard to put in some risers. And I know one store who sells on the internet makes a comment that not all limbs fit all risers. That's because he would have had problems before. Sometimes this little gap here is too tight on here and it won't fit in on some limbs. So let's sort of see how this... Oh, that's just... That's absolutely a beautiful fit. Now, I'm going to show you the width of the limb here is much narrower than my Fivics. The limb, see there, the wobble inside. Now, my Fivics limbs don't do that. They're a tight fit. I don't think that is going to be a problem because when you've got tension on the string, I'm going to guess it's all going to be tight. But you can see, I'm going to show you. When this is in there, oh, I don't like that. You can see that the limbs have got the ability to move left and right. I don't like that. Okay, so I'm going to explain why this is occurring. Because the hole here, the holes where it goes into the limb bolt, it went in so easily because this hole is bigger than the limb bolt on my Fivics. So you can see it like just goes in and out, easy. Sometimes when the limb doesn't fit, you've just got to hit it with a bit of wet and dry paper to make this bolt, this hole a little bit bigger. It's now on the Uukah limbs. So I've used Uukah limbs before. They feel sloppy. So on the Uukah limbs, they fit in really well. And I'm lost why these don't fit in better. I'm just guessing it's this little hole on the end. But it seems that this thing here, the little button thing that I'm trying to point at, seems to be this is a bit looser in the housing than the other. So that's why I'm getting so much limb movement. I'm going to show you how much limb movement I get. That's the limb movement, side to side. Wow. It's interesting. So I'm on various Facebook groups and Olympic archery groups and whatever, and I've seen people comment on about these limbs and say they're really good. And then I get to see it. And when I saw this, I'm like, wow, I'm going to lose my Uukah dealership because these limbs are amazing. And they may be amazing if you've got a Nika riser. But I'm telling you, if I was to sell these limbs to people, they would return them. They would not. They wouldn't accept it. They just wouldn't. I know how fussy customers are, and when I'm going to be mean, and I'm going to sound mean. I get every day. I feel like my phone is 8 hours of phone calls about people worrying about stuff that is not important. This, I think, may be important. I feel like this would be. And when I say stuff that is not important, it's people like fiddling around with stuff that really has no bearing on the bow. I saw a kid's bow on the weekend at the state championship. The arrow was out to the side. His nocks were too tight on the string. I was like, I didn't fit the arrow rest like that. And the actual arrow rest, because it came in the shop the other day for me to fix it, and the arrow rest was a little bit high. Fixed that. And the nocks were too small on the string, so you had a recurve arrow, which is okay because all arrows are the same, but it had the small groove nocks and you need the large groove nocks, so it was too hard to pull off. And I'm going to say, look, those things will make slight bits of difference, and it's going to wear out the string, it's going to do other stuff, and it's like, to fix the problem, to fix his nocks, to fit a pin system to his arrows cost him $20. So he came in my shop, I fixed the rest, I fixed the thing, I fixed the nocks, put pin nocks in for $20. It was like, that should have never been sold to him like that. And I feel like I'm having to go at another shop who did it. I don't know where he brought that stuff from, but it's like, man. Anyway, so these limbs, back to this review. I wouldn't be happy with them, but we're going to fit them and we're going to shoot them, because I'm going to suggest that once I put spring tension on, these limbs are going to line up, because I've got 2 points and I think they're going to line up. So I'm going to be interested to see where the grouping is. So saying that, these are 36-pound limbs, so I'm going to have to I get asked all the time about arrow spine. At 36 pounds, I shot a 700 spined arrow out of my bow. So we're going to go and get some 36. So we can get some 700 spined arrows, and we're going to try those. So we're going to string this up and get some 700 spined arrows and give these limbs a go. Okay, so I've strung the Nika Limbs. They scare the heck out of me to string, as Uukah limbs do. I'm going to say, so with my limbs are 52 pounds, I can string them easily without a bowstringer. I needed a bowstringer to string these. I need a bowstringer to string Uukahs. Because of the extreme recurve, it's harder to string without a bowstringer. Okay, it's just I can't do it, and these are a light limb. Right. So the first thing, these limbs look amazing on the bow. They're an amazing looking limb. They look amazing on my bow. Do they look better than the Fivics limbs? Look, I think the paintwork on the Fivics is outstanding. It's a different look, Uukah limbs, and these are no different. Now what I'm going to point out is here, if you can see in here, because these limbs are on a rounded base, there's a gap here so they don't touch. With my Fivics limbs, they touch on the edge here, and that's the mark on my Fivics limb. These limbs will not mark there because they're on that round base, which I really do like. The limbs where they fit in the pockets here, the Fivics straight, and most limbs are straight. This is curved. It's only touching this pocket here at the very top, which is very different to a normal limb. Now the reason I'm going to guess that Nika do this, and I think with the Uukah limbs that's straight, the reason I think they do this on these limbs is so you can adjust the poundage a long way, to give more poundage adjustment. So that's my feeling. I haven't fitted knocking points. I'm close to the target, so about 10 meters away from the target. I'm looking. When you're testing stuff, always test close. I'm shooting some 600 spined Pandarus with spin wings. Now this doesn't have a spin wing, it's got plastic vanes, which makes no sense to me, so let's just get rid of that. Not that it would make any difference at all, but clearly what happened was I brought some ice point arrows back before with vanes on, because they're fairly cheap with vanes on, and then I would have taken them off and stuck the spin wings on when I was getting ready to shoot. It's a new string. Now we fitted some Uukah limbs to a person's bow the other day, and the Uukah limbs for some reason changed his knocking point. I'm not sure why, but anyway, we had to change his knocking point with the Uukah limbs. I don't understand why, but because of some sort of recurve. So I'm here close to the target. I'm hoping that it hits the target and doesn't go over the top. Let's see. Let's shoot a few shots and see how it feels. The draw cycle. Draw cycle just feels like literally nothing. It's so smooth and it feels so light. Like, I'm going to draw back as far as I can. Like, I feel, I'm going to say blessed, because coming out of surgery I couldn't even draw back 16 pounds, and these are 36-pound limbs, and I draw them back very easily. Most bows gradually build up and they get to a point when they stack. The Uukah limbs and these limbs feel exactly the same. They're just smooth all the way through. You just keep drawing and the poundage just builds gradually. Very, very smooth. It feels no different. It feels like 20 pounds. And if I had a bow scale, I probably do have a bow scale inside, it feels like 20 pounds, and we should check that because it feels like nothing. I do these videos live. I don't pre-take, I don't cast. If something goes wrong, it goes wrong. And I film it because I want that whole experience of, you know, the first shot. Normally when I set up my Fivics limbs for the first shot, they make a crack on the first shot and they're quite scary. So I try and shoot the bow before I'm ready for a tournament, because the first shot, it makes a cracking noise, and then after that it's fine. After that first shot, there was a little cracking sound on that one, but it was pretty good, and the bow felt really quiet besides that crack. Felt fast. The arrow went dead in the middle. My limbs are 52 pounds, so my limbs 44 pounds, but I draw 52. These limbs are 36, so they should be 8 pounds less, and they go straight in the middle at this distance. So oh, that's what happens. I like it when you get back at full draw. I'm so used to the pressure building, and I can almost feel it. I can almost feel it when it's going to go click, just because of the pressure I can feel in my back. I couldn't feel any pressure in my back whatsoever for that shot, and I was like, it feels like 10 pounds. I was like, what have I done wrong? And I was kind of laying the shot down. It just wasn't a good shot. I was laying the shot down because I couldn't feel any pressure, and I was like, what's going wrong here? Because I should be in my anchor point and the clicker should be ready to go off, but I'm not feeling any pressure. Now, Win and Win has a hyper recurve limb also called the MXT. I don't think the new MXT is a big recurve, but the old one was. What Win and Win said to me about the big recurve limb is it's good for beginners because it's easy to pull through the clicker. And they said an experienced archer will always prefer a normal limb because it builds at the point where it's going to go click, and it makes the shot more consistent. And that's why pretty much all your Olympians will shoot a normal recurve limb, because at the point of release it's more precise. With this limb and the Uukah limbs, I'm not having to go at Uukah or this limb, it just feels the same. I can't feel any build up to the shot. It's such a different feeling. It honestly feels like I'm shooting 10 pounds. So with that, I'm going to go and try and get a bow scale because this is so freaky. That's so smooth and so light. I can't even feel muscles when I'm shooting this bow. It just doesn't feel right. So let's go and grab a bow scale. Hopefully I've got one at home and we'll test this. Okay, so I've got a scale. See if it works. This is not the scale I would like to shoot to test because it actually doesn't have the poundage measured, so we'll just play it by 25, 26, 30. It's going up over 30, it's going over 36 pounds, and the problem with this is obviously one I brought when I didn't have scales to see how it was. It doesn't record the peak poundage, but it's definitely well over 36 pounds. What I'll do is I'll draw it back so you can kind of see it. I'm hoping you can see it on the camera, because I couldn't see it. I'm hoping it was on there, but I think it got to about 37, 38 pounds. It feels like 18 pounds, and I don't feel like I'm particularly strong. So anyway, we'll shoot the rest of these arrows and see what the arrows group like. So I had a person get some Uukah limbs the other day, and he found them much harder than his normal limb. And the reason is because you're building up the poundage so much quicker. In the process, you're going to build up more muscles in the process. I found I could probably jump 4 pounds extra with a Fivics limb than a Uukah limb. Not that I got an extra 20 feet per second that I was getting with Uukahs. So again, if you're thinking about buying these limbs, check the price and compare them to other limbs on the market. They feel fantastic. Now I'm going to say shooting close distance, extra speed is not going to be a lot, but when you're shooting long distance, or if you're struggling making a distance, the big recurve limbs like the Uukahs and these can give you an advantage because it'll give you more speed that you need. So for example, me shooting 90 meters last weekend at the state championships, my sight was down as far as it could go. Some people have to aim at the top of the target to hit 90 meters. Uukah limbs will give you an advantage, in my opinion, at the longest distance. Now, remember the limb was moving when it was unstrung left to right. It's centered now really well. Feels really solid. I'll just shoot one more and then we'll go and look where these arrows landed in the middle. Hopefully in the middle. Feels clean off. The limbs feel really good, like there's no vibration after the shot. Sometimes you feel a vibration, there's nothing, it's just dead. Feel quiet, I sound quiet. There's no creaking or moaning. They're very different, very, very different to a normal limb. let's go down and take a look.
Here's my groove. Not the greatest grip I've shot. Knocking point. The left and right's very good, so I'm guessing I'm not getting the left and right movement on the limbs that I was seeing when the limbs were unstrung. The up and down is probably not between me just guessing where it's shot. Right, so my summary of Nika Limbs is they look amazing. They look big. They look the big. They look like a Uukah. But there are some key differences. You have to think about the warranty and what warranty means to you. Because it's no use spending $300 on a set of limbs and then the limb breaks and then you're like, well, I should have bought a Uukah. It's no use spending $300 set of limbs and saying, well, I should have bought, Fivics because those limbs don't break. Right? It's just the thing that's different for me is how it feels on my fingers on the shot. Part of this is going to be the 70 inch versus 68 inches. The 68 will stack more on the fingers at my joy at 29 inches. But the Uukah limbs, the hyper recurve limbs are very smooth on the fingers. Now, in my testing that I've done before, where I sort of sit here and shoot lots and lots of arrows, I generally I shot better with the traditional limbs as far as the points are concerned. I believe that at where speed is necessary, I think the faster limbs, I believe I would shoot better at the longer distances with the faster limbs. Is that 90 meters or is that 70 meters? I don't know because I haven't done the testing. I feel like my release is better on a standard recurve limb than a hyper reflex limb. Okay, so I like the fact that Uukah has all the different grades of carbon, 50%, 100%, 75%, and 100 plus carbon. I like that because it gives me different price points and I can buy a set of limbs at that price point. With the Nika limbs, I really like the round base where it sits because the riser is not digging into the limb. So I think that's really a good thing. I like the round edges. The limb is skinnier than a standard limb because that is meant to be faster through the air. Okay, so whether that's Uukah or Nikas, it's meant to be faster. The limbs are faster. My summary, would I buy a set? It all depends on price. Going through a whole set of limbs from my heart surgery, I started off on cheap limbs and I gradually built up and I'm back to my expensive limbs now, which are about $1,000 for a set of limbs. I like the fact the limbs are durable. The only way I'm going to know that Nika limbs are durable would be to shoot them for ages, sell them for ages, and go, after selling them for 3 years and selling so many sets of them, I've had no failures. That would give me confidence. Okay, so until I see that, the fact that one archer hasn't had a problem and another archer has doesn't tell me really much. Because it's not the volumes, the sample size is too small for it. I'm going to guess the Nika Chinese limb is cheaper than the French limb. Okay, I don't know if it is or isn't. I'm going to guess it is because why would you buy a Chinese limb over the Uukah limb? And Uukah's got a lifetime warranty. Like, why would you do that? It makes no sense to me. So I'm going to get the Nika limbs cheaper. And then I'm like, well, so therefore the Nika limb's going to compete against a inexpensive, mainline limb. So it's going to be a carbon foam limb it's going to compete against from, your Fivics or with a wind. those limbs are pretty indestructible. They are very indestructible limbs. So my thinking about Nika is the reason you buy it is because you don't want to fork out for a Uukah limb because it's too expensive. You're not worried about the warranty that comes with Uukah, and you want to try this hyper recurve limb. I think, just thinking out loud, I think the hyper recurve limb would be a fantastic limb for a hunting recurve bow, the short bows, the short risers, because it's so smooth. Those little short risers tend to stack the limbs and they're hard to pull back because they're really stacking hard against the fingers. You're not pulling through it quicker. It's just instinctive shooting. I think the Nika limbs, the Uukah limbs for that are just amazing. There's no wood. It's just carbon. It's a very good thing to me. They're very quiet. I really like them. So the negatives, the stringing, the sloppiness when you fit the limb, although that may be an advantage. Okay, so when I say it might be an advantage, that just to string it and unstring it, just so much easier. But it is a thing that these limbs are so sloppy compared to other limbs. So Nika, you can shoot them. You've got Nika products. They produce aluminium risers, carbon risers. They produce a whole range of archery gear. Drop a note below that your experience with the company. As I understand, they have sent us pricing in the past, and what happens is I'd be too busy and I just don't get to it, or the pricing was too similar to other products that I think, well, how will this sit in the marketplace? Is there a home for it? Will people buy this product? It's always a problem when you're a customer and you come into a shop and you've got 40 risers to choose from, you've got 5 sets of different limbs to choose from, all at the same price point. Which one do you choose? And people go, well, I choose the one that looks pretty. And it's very hard for a shop to stock 5 different types of limbs in all the poundages, all the size limbs. It's a thing. It's very hard because you sell one and then you just out of that one size. It's yeah. So summary, I think it looks like an amazing product, Nika. I think it's a very, I'm going to put it up to a high quality Chinese product, not a low quality Chinese product. I'm going to guess the Nika limbs inside the Nika riser fit nice. Overall, I really like the product. I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. I can't stress, it gets back to your shooting more than any of the gear. A good shooter with baseline gear is always going to outshoot a beginner with Olympic quality gear, always. So when you're looking at stuff, just bear that in mind, that it gets back to how much you shoot. I do like the way these limbs draw. They just feel so light. It's unbelievable how light they feel. But getting it off through the clicker was not as easy as a set of normal recurve limbs, in my view. Anyway, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Thanks for watching. Bye.